setting up your yearly reading goal looks something like this. Pulling up Goodreads, opening up that reading goal, and typing in a number that's maybe slightly unreasonable and then just calling it good. Now, maybe this title is like a little bit misleading, because if you love setting numerical reading goals and that works for you, then more power to you. Everybody, myself included, loves that little dopamine hit that you get from checking off boxes and seeing like a bunch of check boxes all like complete, that kind of thing. We all love that, and if that brings you joy, then you should totally do that. But that is kind of all that YouTube and like the wider internet presents reading goals to be, especially around this time of year when you see people posting videos of like them desperately trying to reach reading goals of like 100+ books, or setting reading goals for similar crazy numbers. And I do want to say that if you do want to set a numerical reading goal, please remember that a lot of these people, at least like the bigger channels, reading is their job. So if you have a job, you go to school, you know, you have usual life things going on, you're probably not going to want to set reading goals that are as large as theirs, because you're probably just simply not going to have that kind of time to read that many books. But that being said, I do think that the system of setting just a numerical reading goal, like a number of books that to be read that year, is a little bit flawed. It can for sure be fun and satisfying when you complete it, but it is very black and white, so you either achieve it or you don't, and all the value that you might have got out of the books that you did read is negated by the weight of the books that you didn't in order to hit that goal. It's also not reflective of why you want to read and what you want to get out of it, and it doesn't challenge the quality of your books that you're reading, or like you as a reader, beyond the sheer volume of what you can read. So in this video, I want to talk about how you can set reading goals that A, align with actually why you want to read, why you read in the first place, and B, challenge you as a reader and maybe also as a person. So if you want to choose goals that are more aligned with why you read and make reading even more rewarding for you, then you need to actually know why it is that you like to read and what you are looking to get out of it. Do you read because you want to learn new things, because you want to experience other cultures through the eyes of other people or writers? Do you appreciate good writing, good prose, that kind of thing, the whole art of it all? Do you love discovering new worlds, or are you just here for the fun and escapism of it all? And no matter why you read or what you're trying to get out of your reading, all of these are valid, by the way. It doesn't have to be one of these things that I just said. It's whatever it is for you. So your first step is going to be to take a few minutes to think about that. Maybe grab a pen and paper, write down a couple ideas, whatever comes to your mind. Once you've written down your reason or reasons, you can for sure have more than one. You can start making goals based off of those reasons. Now, if you didn't grab a pen and paper before, it's probably a good idea to do that now. And you're going to want to set goals for one reason at a time. So if you have more than one, let's just start by writing down your first reason. So what does fulfilling your reason, or I'm going to call it your why, look like? Now, this can be a bit difficult, but we need to decide what fulfilling that reason or goal or why, whatever you want to call it, looks like. So the concept of a why is a little bit more nebulous than like a solid concrete reading goal number, which is why we need to decide ahead of time what completing or fulfilling that goal actually looks like over the course of 1 year of reading specifically. Like, of course, the year after this, you might still be reading for the same why, but in order to make it a goal for this year, we need to decide what fulfilling that over 1 year looks like to you. I think it would be helpful to do a little bit of a demonstration, so I will do this along with you. And the why that I'm going to use is I want to read books that feature strong storytelling / writing elements so that I can use it as research for writing my own book. So I'm just going to start by writing down some ideas of how I might accomplish this, specifically focusing on the reading part. This is a reading goal, it involves writing, but for the sake of this goal, my writing goals can be separate, so we're just going to talk about what I need to do in my reading to accomplish this, if that makes sense. So if your goals are involving other things or a little more nebulous in that kind of way, definitely be sure to focus on the steps that involve the reading, because we're talking about reading here today. If it's linked in with your other goals, do that later, I guess. Focus on the reading for now. So after doing some brainstorming, I combined / reworded some of my ideas into a final goal, which is to have created a list for each element, and the elements I'm using here are prose, characterization, plot, and world building, of examples I really liked / learned from in different books, why they worked, and how I can implement what I learned in my own writing. So you'll notice that there are no numbers attached to this, which may or may not be true for the goal that you came up with as well, which means it's a little bit harder to say when that goal is completed, as you don't have oh, I did 5 of this, check it off. But it does also mean that you have a little bit more leeway, and at least with this goal specifically, I think it would be the type where if I said I needed 5 examples of everything, then I might find myself writing down examples that I didn't actually learn from as much as others, just to fulfill that need of the goal. And so it's going to be, for me, completion based more on the vibe, the feel, do I feel like I've got enough information to go back and finish the draft of my book that I'm on / set up for the rest of them. So again, it's up to you if there's going to be a number attached. It does make it easier to say when your goal is done, but it's not always the best way to register completion. So how will you accomplish your why or your goal that you've now set? So next we need to decide how we're going to accomplish our goal. So I'm going to start by just writing down some ideas. We're doing some brainstorming again. Brainstorming is really your friend for setting goals. It's useful for a lot of things, but in this context, obviously setting goals. So for example, if I'm trying to learn from a book, it might be a good idea to take notes. So for example, in my goal, if I'm trying to learn from a book, it might be helpful to take notes. So I'm writing down to annotate 5 books, to write in-depth reviews of the elements I think they did well / poorly and what I could take away from that, and specifically choosing books that I know are meant to be strong in areas that I want to improve in my own writing. So you can write down as many ideas as you want, go till your brain is empty. I recommend probably writing down at least 3, but probably more than that is going to be helpful depending on your goal and how complicated it is. And then you're going to want to go ahead and start refining and narrowing those down into however many steps or sub-goals, whatever you want to call them, you feel like you need to achieve your main goal. And you're going to want to choose the ideas that you feel are most closely aligned with the why that you set out. It's a little hard for me to tell you how exactly to do that, but consider how each little sub-goal or step is aligned with getting you to your final why. So for example, if you read for pure enjoyment and your goal is to read more books that bring you joy this year, then you might want to have a step that is to create a priority TBR that's based off of books that you previously enjoyed and maybe recommendations from people who have similar taste to you, so that you have a set list of books that you know you're probably going to like to choose from. Or maybe you need to get a library card so that you can read more books without buying more and increase your enjoyment because you don't have to worry about the financial aspect. But the goal of these hows is to make it easier for you to accomplish your final why, because you've set out what accomplishing it looks like, and you've set out specific steps or directions to follow that will actually get you to your final goal. Goals that challenge you as a reader. So we've talked about how to set goals that fulfill your main why as a reader, but what about some goals that challenge you as a reader? Sometimes it's fun to have additional little goals that are kind of more like side quests, and while fulfilling your main why is going to want to be your main goal, you can for sure have space for other little challenges or goals that motivate you or make you interested in reading. It can be good for you as a reader or a person to specifically choose books that fall outside of what you would normally read in order to, explore new genres, new authors, new just ways of storytelling. And these can help you grow as a person if you want to go that hard, or just discover new things that you like to read, which is always fun. We love expanding our horizons as readers here. Now, reading challenges are typically numerically based, not entirely, but they tend to be things like reading 3 books outside of your comfort zone, or reading a nonfiction book every month, or things like that. And you can for sure use the brainstorming and refinement method that we talked about for setting your main why, but these tend to be a little less serious / intense. Not that your reading goal needs to be serious either. You can have fun and make it whatever you want, but these tend to be specifically more for just kind of fun little things that you want to try to do, you know. And so you can just always look up online. There are a lot of reading challenges you can find. I also have a video on this channel about setting up different reading challenges in your reading journal. So you can check that out for some ideas, or just generally search reading challenges on YouTube or Google and find something that you like from there. And you can choose ones that like tangentially support your main reading goal, or they can be totally unrelated, just for fun type of things. The only thing I would recommend is to keep an eye on the size of your reading challenge so it doesn't like dwarf / overwhelm your main goal. So for example, reading a book from every country might be too big of like a side challenge, but you could probably read a book from every continent. Tracking your goals. So I recommend having somewhere to track your reading goals, especially if you have multiple steps. It's useful to have somewhere to like mark down that you completed them so you know where you are in that. If you have a reading journal, this is a great place to put that. I'll probably put some segment of mine into there. However, I'll probably only put abridged info into there. So I probably won't put the whole like analysis in there. I'll probably do that on my computer and then just have like some sort of setup where I can kind of see how things are going in my reading journal. As I've said, I do have a video showing some sort of reading challenge spreads, but feel free to let me know in the comments if you want a more sort of general how to set up a general like reading goals page in your reading journal. And then of course, if you don't use a reading journal, you can either track your goals physically or digitally, obviously. If you're going to track them physically, I do recommend getting some sort of notebook, because loose leaf paper just tends to vanish into the ether. I don't even know. But if you're looking to track digitally, you can do something as simple as just using like the Notes app in your phone, writing little things down. Or if you want something that's a little bit more visual, more put together, you can use just any sort of to-do app if it's more of like a step-by-step or like numerical goal, because that can be pretty easy if you're just checking things off. And then of course there is sites like Notion, which are very popular, so you can set up like a whole page that shows you everything to do with your reading goal. You can have your challenges in there too. Whatever you want to do, I would just figure out some way that works for you to track your reading goal. Alright, I think that is everything that I wanted to cover. I hope this video has been helpful for you to set a reading goal that will actually improve your reading quality and not just the quantity. Although if you've listened to all this and decided, nah, I'm just going to set a numerical goal anyway, then more power to you. I hope you achieve it. But thank you so much for watching. Let me know in the comments what your reading goals for 2025 are. Consider subscribing if you haven't already, and I will see you next time.